The following transmission contains unencrypted instances of explicit language.
Welcome back. This is part 2 of our tradecraft analysis of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. In part 1, we set up the major characters and laid out all of the events and information of our George Smiley protagonist we'll need to discover. If you missed out on part 1, there's a simple solution. You might want to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so that you can always stay caught up with us.
That's right, Dave. Part 1 was all about us describing what actually happened before George Smiley was put on the case. Now that we have the table set, we'll be discussing our super spy detective's process. Basically how he goes about figuring out what actually happened, and that's going to be the subject of this episode of Spies Like Us.
This is the story. Is Smiley is called upon by Buttered Toast Guy to come out of retirement to investigate the possibility of a mole. And he was selected specifically because he had been retired, quote unquote. And so no one at MI6 would, I guess, be aware of Smiley's involvement. But also Smiley was like Control's right-hand man. So Smiley has a motivation. He has personal experience and information.
And this is plus spy points for Buttered Toast Guy.
Buttered Toast Guy even had said, Control had come to me a while back and told me about the possibility of the mole, which apparently everyone in the entire country of England dismissed except for Control. This is how the Buttered Toast Guy plays it to Smiley, because Smiley's like, I'm retired. Remember, you fired me. And Buttered Toast Guy is like, well, I figured since you were Control's right-hand man that, you know, this might have like a more of a personal motivation for you type of thing. And so that's how he gets Smiley on the case.
What I like about this is that Buttered Toast knows if you're going to investigate MI6, you need someone that is currently outside of MI6, but that also knows the players. Once Smiley accepts the job, he says he wants just 2 people on his team. He wants Cumberbatch because Cumberbatch was Ricky's handler, so he would be the closest guy to being able to confirm or deny what Ricky is reporting to Buttered Toast. And he also wants this other guy, George Mendel, who appears only super briefly in the story, but we're gonna give him a special award later.
Yes,
so definitely. He's just got 2 guys, and so nobody at MI6 knows that Smiley is basically investigating MI6. He's doing it from the outside, but he does have some contacts, and he does like know the inner workings. He knows the players. The first thing he does after taking the job is he investigates John Hurt's flat, Old Control, who, by the way, we hadn't mentioned, died shortly after he got shoved out. We never heard if that was, natural death or suicide. Seems like a very suspicious thing to me, but the movie doesn't do anything with that. And that's where he finds that Control had put together a set of chess pieces. And that's where he finds what Control had labeled Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Poor Man, Beggar Man, all that stuff. It's that finding of the chess pieces, that's what triggers him, like kind of like our first very important flashback, which is stuff we already talked about, which was like him reminiscing about Control's anxieties about Percy and his whole witchcraft crew. So that's the first thing that is on Smiley's mind is, wow, Control was really worried about this witchcraft stuff. His next move is he wants to know how, like, what did Percy do immediately after me and Control got forced out? Who got fired? Who got promoted? What was the shakeup of the house? And he also wants all the records of Reptile Fund payouts. Reptile Fund being, I'm not certain if this is a Careyism or if it's legit spy parlance, but the Reptile Fund in this case is like
it's a slush fund.
Yeah, like the secret payouts. He sends Cumberbatch in to get those because Cumberbatch still has his, ID. Cumberbatch can still go in and out of the circus.
Right. He's clearly still on the payroll and has clearance, and they all know, everybody at the building knows him.
Right. Smiley can't do that. If Smiley showed
No.
up, everybody would be like, what the fuck, dude? Didn't you get fired like 2 years ago?
Yeah. Did you not get the memo?
I gotta call this out. I'm a little annoyed by the film. While Cumberbatch is in the circus building getting this information for Smiley, it's kind of noticed by the Cabal. And the soldier character has a meeting on the rooftop with Bill the tailor. And we even have a scene where, like, as Cumberbatch is coming down the elevator, soldier takes it like out of his way to like kind of show up there and kind of just seem kind of, I don't know, weirdly menacing, curious kind of thing. It's all bullshit. It's all movie bullshit. This goes nowhere. It's not explained. We're gonna call this chicken feed. Not only in the prosecution of like spy tradecraft that we see prosecuted in movies, but also sometimes when movies give us, the audience, some bullshit information that means nothing.
Right.
And is purely meant for us to just like, oh, look over there, or look over here, or think about this guy. If it has no reason, then that's fucking chicken feed for us. That's just for no reasons, just to throw the audience off the scent. Minus spy points for your chicken feed. The whole elevator thing it's minus for the movie.
From Cumberbatch getting sent in, he finds out that Connie the analyst, who we talked about earlier, who spotted something in the film about Polyakov, and that's what got her quote unquote retired. That puts a lot of suspicion on Percy, and I think the film really did a good job of that, because, like, why would you get rid of him? This is a pretty big find. Why am I being forced out? But she also reminds us that Bill and Jim, or Mark Strong's character, were very, very close, and that's when Smiley adds Polyakov to the as a chess piece to the board, because clearly something is rotten in the circus.
Cumberbatch also comes back with the requested reptile fund information, and we Smiley gets this big clue that Mark Strong received money 2 months after his death, which raises questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, why are you paying a dead man? And I thought it was cool how he figured it out, because the payment receipt was actually to a person of a different name, and Smiley realized that was one of Jim's cover names.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So Smiley has those clues in hand. This is the point in the contemporaneous story where Smiley actually does meet with Ricky and here's this whole story about what happened in that country that we forgot to put down in our notes. But the story about, Irina and what happened there. And here, too, Ricky's motivation, is established through his story of what he did wrong and how he fucked up through his ambition. But now he's got a new ambition or a new goal, which is he knows he fucked up and he feels absolutely shattered over the idea that this innocent woman, has disappeared into the Soviet gulags or whatever, torture chambers,
Yeah.
who knows what. But his main motivation is not just to like clear his name and come home clean, but literally like you got to save her. I can't live with myself if I'm the reason that she goes down.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy for him. And what's important about this scene for the investigation is this confirms the existence of a mole. But uh, when Ricky tells the story, he talks about the night that he sent the message to the circus. So this gives a lead for Smiley to look up on. And that lead is basically he sends Cumberbatch back into the circus to get the logs to confirm what Tom Hardy said.
Right. Yeah, let's get some confirmation.
Yeah, and this leads into both Todd and I's favorite scenes.
I think it's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun. So what we need to do in this case, I don't know why we didn't need to do all this rigmarole the last time we sent him in, right? He apparently just went in and walked out with the records previously.
Right.
So,
but the
minor minus 5 points for the movie because there was nothing that should have put. Well, actually, maybe not because there is something I wasn't 100% clear on it, but something about when Ricky Tarr shows up on the radar, it does actually. There's some scenes that kind of indicate that it kind of tickles Percy's alarm bells.
And we're shown that Percy has received information that Ricky showed up in Paris. And so the heat is kind of on. But when Cumberbatch got first sent, he had to go into one small office and pull stuff out of like a, I don't know, what, like an armoire or whatever you would call those. And this time he has to go into the records room, and they don't let stuff in or out of those type of places, right? So I guess it's the heat's on, and this is a little bit more serious type of situation.
I don't know. He waltzed out. He apparently waltzed out with the reptile fund information.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Nobody blinked an eye there. So maybe that's a again like a condensing of the story, but they at least kind of made some moves to try to kind of indicate that this next mission to go in and get some deeper information might also be like a higher level of threat of people noticing and being tripped out about it. And they take appropriate precautions. In fact, it's it's not entirely convoluted, but it is fun. He's got, there's a whole process of you got to check your bag in, check your bag out, just standard stuff for your Pentagon or your, top level MI6 establishment is you don't just let people like walk in and out with a backpack. And we want Cumberbatch to be able to get access to his bag real quick so he can stuff this information in. And that's why we do a whole thing where Mendel
calls in pretending to be Cumberbatch's car mechanic. So as Cumberbatch is going through records and he finds the files he needs, he's approached by one of the guards, or I guess the check counter guys or whatever that actually checked his bag in, that he's got a car from his mechanic. And Cumberbatch gets on the phone, and we get a nice shot from the film that there's a lady on like kind of a line switch recording all the phone calls.
As you do.
Right. You got to be listening in on everything. But Mendel not only calls pretending to be his car mechanic, he goes to a mechanic shop where they're playing this really fun jazz song. And all Mendel does is say like, oh, there's something wrong with your car. You're going to have to send it to someone else. Where should I send it? And Cumberbatch, so not only is this jazz music playing, you got the switchboard lady tapping her toes. The guard guy was kind of humming the jazz song. It sounds like a mechanic shop in the background. And Cumberbatch goes, let me get the card of the guy you got to send it to. So he says to the bad guy, he's like, hey, can I get my bag? He's like, oh, just come on, just for a second. Like, I just got to get a phone number out of my bag. So he gets his bag, takes out the card, and reads the phone number to Mendel. But what he's really doing is using that as an opportunity to stuff the file into his bag, and then he hands it back to the bagman. So he's successfully gotten the files into his bag without notice.
It's so
Uh,
much fun to me because I wouldn't think of this myself, but if I just called you from a cell phone,
mhm.
just to say like, hey, I'm your mechanic and I need a certain phone number from you. Can you get it for me? There's a problem
Right.
with your car. Um, you know, I I might sound like, I don't know, I'm just calling you from a cell phone. I might just sound like I'm calling you from my apartment. The slavish loving detail of actually like making the call from a mechanic shop and playing this music in the background, just making the whole auditory experience sound completely convincing. How did this not make my number one best tradecraft? I'm not sure. It is my number one favorite tradecraft of the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. It was a lot of fun.
And
Uh, this actually got my number two best trade craft was just the entire setup for getting Peter his bag. I think it was really well thought out because they knew that they were going to check his bag. They knew that he was going to have to get the information out and so get something into his bag without notice. And yeah, it's definitely worthy of getting some good plus spy points here. So it's my number two best trade craft. Now, this all would have been fine, and we kind of rest easy as the audience, except Cumberbatch is approached and asked to see the heads of the circus, uh, which is kind of puts us on the edge of our seats as the audience because we're in this like super suspenseful moment of him getting information out. So we're like, oh, he's been caught. But he's actually taken up the office for something else.
because I guess Percy's on edge about the whole Ricky Tar showing up on the board again, and just noticing, I don't know, Cumberbatch, who was supposed to be handling Ricky Tar, is like, we got to talk to you. Your guy is a goddamn spy. You're not telling us everything you need to tell us, and put your cards out right now. And Cumberbatch,
Right.
Cumberbatch just fucking like puts it right back in his face, right? Says like,
Yeah,
if you
they
if you
accuse
have something, tell me.
they basically accuse him of being a traitor. And he's like, would it surprise you that Ricky Tar just showed up in Paris? And he's like, well, nothing would surprise me about Ricky Tar. And he's like, well, would it also surprise you that 30,000 pounds were deposited into his account? And then he gets real quiet. So, uh, uh, well, first of all, I think it's funny that they're sitting there like accusing him of being a traitor while he's sneaking out documents to incriminate one of them as the traitor.
I
But
know, like if you think you have something, like search the
right,
man. Come on.
right, right, exactly. But they're really just trying to like scuffle or ruffle little feathers to see if there is something that he knows, which he doesn't, and he fires back at him. But what's really interesting is this 30,000 pounds deposit into Ricky's account, because this heavily incriminates Ricky, and
It doesn't look good.
it does not look good. And they basically said, your man defected. He's a traitor. He's a mole. He's getting paid off by Carla, this and that. And I've been saving my number one best tradecraft for right here because I wanted us to get all the points out. I wanted to talk about the werewolf game that Carla and Bill played. And if you've never played werewolf, it's kind of like that game Mafia, or if you've been playing Among Us online or Secret Hitler, and the game's about the villagers trying to figure out who the werewolves are. Well, if you've ever played the game and you start playing with veterans and you get better at it, you start to notice how good werewolves can get at throwing shade and hiding their identity. And I really wanted to point this entire collection of the master game that Carla and Bill play as like quote unquote werewolves. I mean, not like Bill not stepping up to the throne like Percy did. He just kind of sat back and, kind of supported Percy where he could and made plays for Carlo where he could. He wasn't out in the forefront. He was in the background and feeding Percy's ego, throwing shade on Control with the Hungary op, with the fact that, oh, he's just crazy, he's on a witch hunt. When they get the naval report, Bill just intently reading the report, and he's just like cracking casual jokes,
Playing a villager to the hilt.
The fact that all the heads of the circus were involved in the witchcraft house, where they're all going to the house and giving information to the Russians and getting information to the Russians, because this floods all the suspicion. You now have all the tops in there. And so you can't just be like, oh, they've been giving information. Well, yeah, this is part of a real op that's been sanctioned by MI6. Like, there's nothing wrong going on. And if our theory is true that Carla like set up the Hungry op, even if he didn't set it up, like, intercepting it and creating the headline against Jim, and then right here, depositing $30,000 into Ricky's account, framing him for the killing of Tufty, accusing him of being like a traitor or whatever. This whole game, one, protects the identity of the mole, and two, throws massive suspicion on everyone else. Mm-hmm. Jim is suspected. Ricky's suspected.
Preach it.
Yeah, Control is like gaslighted to death, so any talk about a mole would just be silly at this point. It's perfect, and this is my number one best tradecraft. Is the whole werewolf game that Carla and Bill play.
Applause. Yes. Yes. Bill wins at werewolf.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess he doesn't, but
well, in the end,
for now, we'll say he does.
Well, that's my number 2 worst, which I mentioned before. He does make one mistake. He lets his friendship interfere with his entire master plan, and I feel like a shitbag for calling him out on that, but that's how he gets outed and killed. Is he had that one little flaw of sympathy for his best friend that he had fully betrayed, but just didn't want to live with on his conscience the actual death of his friend out of that situation. And that's what makes it all a sad story. Like, this whole thing is a sad story. This is not a happy story. No. It's a pretty grim story.
That's typical of Le Carre, where even with the wins, it's not.
Oh, like my God! Do you need to look anywhere past A Most Wanted Man? The ending of that movie is so profoundly fucking depressing. It just like shakes. It just shakes all your faith in the entire work of intelligence to just be this fucked up game that actually nobody wins. Everyone is just revealed to be just flawed and sad at the end.
Right.
But I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I can't let us get out of this scene without talking about going back though. Like, remember the and I'm giving Mendel a Blonde Butler award. Blonde Butler.
Oh, that's right.
from this is from the 1956 version of The Man Who Knew Too Much. The Blonde Butler award goes to a character that just, in a spy movie, that just is way in the background, totally competently does his job, usually has almost no lines or very few lines, is not really a character, but you just see him in the background just quietly being competent and doing his fucking job. That's a Blonde Butler. And I'm giving that award to Mendel. Again, for the way he sets up this whole like sonic deception of the mechanic making this call to Cumberbatch. And we mentioned that even the transcriptionist, the lady that's supposed to be listening to every single call and writing everything down so that it's all recorded, she's tapping her toe, loving that jazz music. And I really like this tiny little scene where Cumberbatch is he's gotten out of the briefing room where Percy tried to call him a traitor. And, he's on his way out. He's got the stuff. Everything looks good. And on his way out down the stairwell, the soldier character seems to make a point of passing him on the stairway and is humming that same jazz song. All the color just drains out of Cumberbatch's face. What an amazing actor. Yeah. It's a reminder that everyone's listening to everything. Just like humming that tune, that was on a phone call, just reminds you that, like, there's no secrets here. And, and that's part of why, like, Cumberbatch is so rattled that when he gets back to, and keep in mind too, like, Smiley sent Cumberbatch in to confirm Ricky Tarr's story without ever telling Cumberbatch why he was going in to get that.
He didn't even tell him that he knew he had Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
And that's now we get to the Cumberpunch.
That's some plus 5 points for Smiley, because
absolutely,
if Cumberbatch had known something about that, like, he might have cracked when Percy, was throwing some daggers at him. But he comes out of that. I mean, he's completely rattled, and when he sees Ricky Tarr, basically to his mind, this is just like this one agent that went completely fucking rogue and silent and just went off and did his own shit. And now the top of, like, my boss's boss is telling me I'm a traitor because, I let this guy off the leash. I come back and I see him sitting on the couch. Cumberpunch.
Yep.
Boom.
Right. Yeah. Do you know how that makes me feel? No, it's a great scene. And but this is when Smiley finally lets Cumberbatch know that he's been working with Ricky, and he gets the logbook and asks Ricky what day he sent the message. Smiley opens the book, and there's been pages torn on the day that he sent the message. So clearly someone's covering their tracks.
Smiley is suspicious, Percy.
Right? So this is when we get the kind of the heat on the trail. We know pretty much for sure. There's no way Smiley can just, like, throw in any doubt that there is a mole, but he's hot on the trail somewhere. And he knows Ricky is definitely going to be a solid piece to the puzzle. But before he follows up on this, Smiley meets the duty officer that was on duty the night that Jim got shot. And he learns that that officer called Smiley's house because Smiley would be first on the call chain, but Smiley wasn't home. So he ends up contacting Bill, who showed up and took control of everything, which starts raising some spidey senses.
This is a quick correction from the future. While I was editing this episode, I noticed that David said that the duty officer called Smiley first and then called Bill. That is actually not correct. The duty officer did call Smiley's house. Smiley was not home, but Bill was at Smiley's house because at this point Bill is having an affair with Smiley's wife. It's a small detail, but it does come important in a few ways later, and sorry for the sloppy edit. I just couldn't figure out any other way to fix that. Back to the show.
After meeting with the duty officer, this is when he goes to talk to Jim, or Mark Strong's character, to hear his side of the story. And that's when we find out that Jim never died and was taken in for what seemed months to him for interrogation. There's shots of him with, like, headphones on, and they're just playing, like, horrific sounds, trying to get in his head. That's when we're told as the audience that Irina is dead because they basically shot her right in front of him. But what's interesting is that he meets Carla, and Carla's flashing that lighter that he took from Smiley, so many decades ago, and he's only asking about Smiley. And basically, when he gets back, Esterhaus arranges him to have a job as a teacher at a school and tells him he has to go into hiding and never tell anybody what happened, and that he didn't exist. Basically, he had to become what a Lotus Theater is the way he described it.
Mm-hmm. In some of my thinking about this movie, that did seem odd to me that
Right.
Mark Strong would just quietly accept this. I mean, he was tasked by John Hurt to do a very important mission. He was nearly killed. He was tortured for a long time. I mean, now there's one reason, you might
Right.
want to just go quietly.
Right, yeah,
is like, I don't want to be fucking tortured anymore.
Right,
And
yeah,
I-
right,
and
exactly.
I kind of don't want to talk about it either. I mean, when Smiley shows up and does, are we cool with this? Like when he does meet with Mark Strong and follows up on that lead, which was from the Reptile Fund, and here's his side of the story. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Carla, part of the Mark Strong story is that Carla like seemed to make sure you saw this later, kind of a baller alpha villain move to like,
Right.
wave your superior dick in the face of the hero.
Yeah.
But that can't be plus spy points,
No.
I'll bet in the full series or in the book there was some fucking reason for it. But in the movie, in the movie, it's whatever that was on
Right.
Carla's part, like it's cut out for time.
Right. But what we didn't bring up is that when he was told to go into hiding, he was specifically told to never return and not talk about this Tinker Tailor stuff. And this is important because, as we know, only two people knew about the code names. It was John Hurt and Jim, the Mark Strong character. So when Smiley comes back to Cumberbatch and starts talking about what he learned about Mark Strong's story, he raises the question, I know you're thinking what I'm thinking. How on earth did Esterhaus know about Tinker Tailor?
It's Bill that arranged for Mark Strong to be released,
Right.
but because Bill is such a good fucking werewolf, he keeps his hands clean and he has Esterhaus deliver the information to Mark Strong and make that whole arrangement of 2,000 pounds in a sports car and a fucking teaching job.
Oh yeah, but how did Bill know about the shooting if the ticker wasn't on? So it kind of doesn't make sense about Bill's story. And well, no, it's not what you think. He knows Bill found out because he knows Bill was at his house fucking Anne. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So we already gave the plus spy points for Carla instructing Bill to seduce Anne to throw a different kind of suspicion over Bill. That and here's your minus spy points for Smiley,
right.
for falling for it.
Well, it worked to a point, I guess.
That's literally, in my opinion, like Smiley's only misstep in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he eventually gets past it, but Cumberbatch was right, and Smiley wasn't hearing it because Carla's just this fucking master genius that knows how. We didn't talk about, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about, the fact that Smiley and Carla met each other a long, long time ago, and Carla was just completely silent while Smiley was just like, just trying to pressure him, talk him into, and that's why he like gave him the lighter. He's trying to like play friendly cop, but in the end, like Carla learned everything about Smiley, and Smiley learned nothing about Carla.
Nothing about Carla, yeah.
Right. And this is, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy in the novels. It's the first in it's called the Carla trilogy. there's another book and then a third book that all deal with the, Smiley versus Carla kind of situation. And that's probably entirely explored in the miniseries. We're probably just looking at this movie as being like basically like book one of that. But I don't think we're gonna get a sequel out of this one.
Yeah, probably not.
I think I could plug in too some plus spy points for Bill because he's selling one lie. I'm fucking your wife.
Yeah.
And I'm lying about that. And that is different from the lie that he is most important for him to maintain, which is, I am not the mole.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Mad plus spy points on that.
Smiley, at this point, he doesn't have the final solution, but he's got all the pieces of the puzzle that he needs. We're going to see him rewinding all of Tom Hardy's, Ricky Tarr's notes that he gave him. And he finds that, according to Ricky, Irina was telling Ricky that Carla was like, and his crew were, on the Soviet side, were just laughing their ass off about how much like chicken feed they were giving to MI6. Smiley's headquarters kind of like there's a train track yard that is like outside his window or something. And like a lot of times we've seen just for no apparent reason, like trains going past. This is the point where we see a particular image in his mind of, when you switch the tracks from one to the other. Up till now in the detective story, he's really just been, Columbo. He's really just been going around like, getting the files, interrogating people, just finding out information. Passive detective work. I think the switch is meant to show us that he is now going to not just follow the tracks ahead of the game, but he's actually going to create his own track for the enemy to follow.
Oh, that's a cool use of symbolism. Yeah, that's a good find on that one. I was wondering about the train track. I mean, like I figured out it was like something about his mind, like he's on the right track, and then he switches tracks. But I didn't notice that he was switching from passive to active.
He meets with Buttered Toast guy and Buttered Toast's boss, and tells him that witchcraft is corrupted and is working backwards. I'm not 100% sure, like how he got there from what he knows so far. He also specifically told him that he knew that he knows about Percy's plan to open that CIA channel using the information from witchcraft, which I will call minus spy points for the movie. I'm morally certain that Smiley never found out about that or in any way that we were shown.
Yeah, we weren't shown anything. I can't think of a moment, not even making like an inference, how he would have figured out that the plan was to get the CIA in.
Yeah, it's a logical jump of some stuff we just weren't not shown.
Yeah. But from this, he's ready to spring the trap. What Smiley knows is that what he's figured out is that Operation Witchcraft has been working backwards for the mole in MI6 to pass information to the Russians and vice versa. He knows that the heads of the circus are meeting with Polyakov to trade information at a specific house. He also knows that everybody's kind of on edge because of Ricky. They all think he's a traitor, or the mole doesn't want Ricky out because he has the good information. Either way, nobody wants Ricky around except for Smiley. What he doesn't know is where this house is that they're meeting for witchcraft. And he also doesn't know the mole. So what he's going to do is, one, he has to get the address for the house that they're meeting at. And two, he's going to use Ricky as bait to get the heads to meet, knowing that the mole will head to that house being the only one who would need to contact Polyakov immediately. Because they're regularly trading information, but, you know, it's like probably on a specific schedule. So with Ricky, what Smiley does is send Ricky to Paris and, you know, flag him up, you know, as a blip on the globe to get the heads to meet. And the only reason anybody would go to Polyakov over Ricky is to let Polyakov know there's an issue and that the mole might be identified. And that's the gist of the trap. So let's kind of break this down a little bit.
It's never clear to me how Smiley identifies Toby Esterhaus as being the weak link of the cabal, but we as the audience have been given several clues. I mean,
Right.
He's a fucking worm.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about this type of situation, the scene with Smiley, because Smiley opens up, you know, I want to talk about loyalty, because it turns out John Hurt Control saved Esterhaus from Hungary somewhere. He was a wanted man. You know, I guess he was like on the streets. It's a war-torn kind of situation. You know, and Smiley points out, like, you know, you betrayed Control, but that's probably how you survived the war, is your ability to switch sides. So he really is just this wormy character.
It's often, you know, like comes up in some spy movies where, like, you know, you see the guy that switched sides once.
Right.
That tells you they have that capability.
The way Smiley plays this whole situation escalates so hard every moment of the way. He picks him up. Oh, this is kind of weird. Hi, George. How you doing? You know, they drive off to this runway, and then Cumberbatch drops off Smiley and Esterhaus on the runway, and then just drives off. So it's just Smiley and Esterhaus. I'd like to talk about loyalty, and goes on this whole thing, and then it escalates a little more. A plane fucking lands behind them and is obviously headed towards them. And he's still going on, you know, you betrayed Control, you know, all this other stuff. You picked the wrong side. And then the plane stops, the propellers shut off, and Smiley's like, you're still a wanted man, aren't you?
Oh, back on the other side of the curtain, yes.
And that's when, like he said, Esterhaus just starts breaking down. I am loyal. Don't send me back, you know, blah, blah, blah. Because his whole, like, life of pomp and being, like, this worm is about to, like, crumble. And this is when Smiley goes, yeah, you guys have all been meeting with a person, with a Russian agent, passing information. But I know something you don't know. You're actually giving information to Carla. And that's like what really shocks, like, Esterhaus. And all Smiley wants out of this whole performance of really sweating and really threatening to, like, end his entire career and life and whatever, throw him into some Hungarian prison. Tell me the address of where you guys meet. Like, that's really what gets my, like, best tradecraft, was just this whole grandiose, like, just really sweating him hard. He made a big fuss, showed him this is serious business. I'm not fucking around here, blah, blah, blah. All I want is the address, just this little address. You know what I mean? Like, that's all he wanted from him. And that's what he got. Cause that was one of the big key parts of setting up the trap. So yeah, best tradecraft number 3.
Yeah. So you got part 1, you know, where the rat will scurry if it's got cheese. Next step. Right. Provide the cheese. Smiley sends Ricky to Paris to send a message to manage to hold the British intelligence agent of the Paris checkpoint at gunpoint to send a message to the circus. And yeah, immediately, like, that freaks everyone out, because apparently he sends out the exact same message that he sent out on November 20th when he had Irina in hand. And so that freaks everyone out. They meet up at the circus, all the people that you might think were the mole, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, but only one of them heads to the safe house that Esther House had given up. That's Bill, the tailor, the mole,
Right.
who needs to let Polyakov know that Ricky is still out there, Ricky's still broadcasting, and Ricky needs to be silenced. But of course, since we already have the safe house in hand, Smiley's already there. Yeah, the trap was set. Yeah, Bill fell for it. Blah, blah, blah. It didn't feel super dramatic to me. But, you know, they got him. He fell for it. Movie moves on. I would maybe give some -5 points for the film. At least minus drama points for the way this part was handled. But I'll save it for the debriefing. Do you have anything you want to say before we get in there?
I think we're showing it through Peter's eyes just to add more suspense, because we're like the film's withholding information from the audience. But I agree, it kind of was really fast. But I mean, I read an interview with Colin Firth about, you know, the filming of this. You know, he played Bill, and he was saying they desperately tried the in post production, the crew desperately tried to cut this down to like what was the count, like 2 hours?
It's a straight 2 hours.
Yeah, they tried to cut it down from 3.5 hours, and I'm pretty sure they probably had to cut it down from probably 7-8 hours of footage or something.
I think I think a movie like this could have definitely survived like a 220 or a 2.5,
Right.
and might have been a better movie. But now I feel like we're straying into like full on
Debrief.
Yeah. let's
right.
let's head in there.
Agents, please report for debriefing on this operation. The director will see you now.
It's more about what happened before Smiley got involved to me than what he does with it.
Right.
It's a fun detective story. It's got a great cast. It is a highly mechanical and intricate spy movie. Gonna go ahead and say, like, not my favorite movie I've ever seen. Even though, like, I love the performances in it so much, I don't feel like I need to revisit this one a lot. Mine's a 3.5. I like it about, I think it's about as rewatchable as Sneakers. It's a most wanted man, Samurai Spy, Good Shepherd, The Departed. Like, for many reasons, I can think of a lot of spy movies that I find to be much more rewatchable than this one.
I actually think, like, me personally, I like rewatching it and being able to watch it again and again. And for this, and when we were trying to figure out the pieces, going back and watching it over and over, like within a few weeks, made me appreciate it more than when I'd first seen it, and the second time I saw it, and the third time I saw it. You know, it's these kind of movies that I really enjoy in a spy film, and why I really like doing this podcast is for films like this. So I mean, just the cast was like out of control. There was so many amazing scenes. The dialogue was great, and it was like tons of tradecraft to enjoy. And so I'm gonna go with a 4.5 on this one. I highly recommend, if you like spy films, I highly recommend watching this and watching it a couple times so you can pick up the little nuggets that we got to find.
Absolutely. It's a tradecraft near perfect. All of the tradecraft errors that our characters make seem to be very much, and you know, in a way that I love to see, very much in service of a message that the author is trying to tell us. Is basically pride comes before the fall.
Right.
In every way, there's so many, like, everyone's got a flaw, you know, like and these flaws of personality are always the reasons that they make mistakes. And that's what's so great about John Le Carre.
And this film really had a lot of what I want out of a spy film, and it was tons of tradecraft, and there was so much really good tradecraft that Todd and I got to pull out of it. It was actually hard for me to put this into like a list of only 3, but my best tradecrafts, my 3 best. Number 3 was Smiley threatening Esterhaus, just the whole performance, really sweating him just to get the address. Number 2 best tradecraft, the entire setup that Smiley and Mendel had to get Cumberbatch into the circus and get his bag back so he could put the file in, with the jazz song and the sounds of a mechanic shop. That was great. But my number 1 best tradecraft was definitely the werewolf game that Carla and Bill played. Everything, and I mean everything they did solidified the idea. Yeah. Completely solidified that there is no mole. Bill is definitely not the mole, and there's not even a mole. And even if there was, look at these guys. Those guys are hella suspicious, without even saying it out loud. It just the whole like master chess game that Carla and Bill played. It was great. I really enjoyed it. What was your best?
Oh, well, coat trailing I loved, and that was kind of an accidental find because I accidentally was looking at the wiki for the novels where coat trailing was specifically explained, and then I kind of noticed that was going on in the movie. I had the idea it was maybe just trailing his coat a bit. That I was like, boom! Yes. Yeah. Yes. The whole my best number 2, the idea of using that sleeping with Smiley's wife as a way of like hiding in plain sight, telling the different lie to hide the real lie. Literally causing Smiley's only misstep in the film. That's good stuff. My number 1 is it kind of goes sort of to the werewolf game, but Bill could have been the face of witchcraft easily, but it makes so much more sense to let Percy, a man with a big forehead and a dream, be the face of witchcraft. It's fucking beautiful.
Absolutely.
Goes straight into my number 3 worst, which is Percy letting his ambition cloud his judgment. He did that several times. He was the ideal puppet. My number 2 worst, of course, is Bill intervening to trade the Mark Strong character out. Again, I'll say it again, in for a penny, in for a pound. If you're gonna fuck over your best friend, bury him. There's no half-assing that, because if you don't do it, they're gonna come back at the end of the movie and put a bullet in your head.
Yeah, right. Which is exactly what happened.
And my number one matches yours, so I'll let you do that. What's your worst?
My number 3 worst tradecraft. Like I said, it was hard finding some bad decisions the first couple of times around in the film, but the skimping on the punch was great. Yeah, we had Control. He's like, "You penny pinching Scott" or whatever he called it. It was really funny.
It's okay. Cool. I'm Scottish. You can talk shit about Scottish people. My Scottish uncle, he told me, we're a people with we have deep pockets and short arms.
Right. That's really funny. My number worst.
I'm pretty fucking cheap. You know me, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking cheap.
Not so much.
I'm not sure it's because I'm Scottish, but
Right.
I blame my cheapness on my Scottish blood just because it's an easy out. Then I don't have to take actual responsibility for my own actions. What's your number two? What's your number two worst?
My number two worst tradecraft was Ricky skipping protocol and contacting the circus directly. I mean, you just received information that one of the heads of the circus was a mole. So what do? Contact one of the heads of the circus? Like, he basically told the mole, hey, I know there's a mole. So yeah, that's my number two worst. And then Todd and I's number one worst tradecraft goes to Jim.
So easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, picking this one out. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
You just had this really big, first of all, you're probably like on a lower level. You have the head of intelligence coming to you, probably because he thinks you're a noble guy. And he's like, don't tell anybody. And what do? You go and tell the mole that the head of the intelligence knows about a mole, and they're going to find out the identity. Yeah, that was the worst decision ever. That could have saved a lot of lives. It is just following protocol.
It is almost retarded that this entire movie hinges around that, because it's so fucking bad.
Yeah, super bad.
I think that on our park bench rating, which is our rating from 1 to 5 on how good, how accurate the tradecraft is, I think we're gonna stop. We have to stop short of a 5, because a 5 has to be like that holy grail of pure perfection. But I think this is going to be our first 4.5 park benches. It's almost unassailable.
Yeah, I definitely want to agree with you on this. It's 4s were like Munich, A Most Wanted Man, The Company. Meh.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with you on a 4.5.
We've definitely just done our most serious spy movie ever and we're on like episode 27 or something.
Right.
we're gonna pull a fucking hard U-turn. we're doing that thing. We're doing that thing where you like use the parking brake to make a mad spin.
Yeah.
Throwing up some smoke. It's coming up next, Spy Kids.
I'm really excited.
We've been wanting to do Spy Kids for fucking ever. It's always wanted to be one of the movies we're gonna put in there. I've only seen some of it. What I saw made me tremble. And what I saw made me seriously doubt that we're actually gonna fucking do this. But Lewis is totally on board. We're gonna get some Yammering Lou in there.
This will be fun. Yeah,
that's gonna be it's gonna be next week. We'll have to find some fucking some trade in there.
I think there'll be plenty. I think there's going to be a lot of worst and best for us to pick from.
All right, let's do it.
All right. And that's the end of our show. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at spies_like_us. Visit us on our website at www.spieslikeus.net. You can find out about upcoming episodes. Also, what will really help us out is if you give us a review on wherever you found our podcast, either on iTunes or your Android app or YouTube or wherever you listen to us. Even if you didn't like the show, just give us a review. It'll help us, give us feedback so we can make the show better. And it can also help other people who haven't found the show yet find out about us. Hey, Moira, initiate Protocol 9.
Protocol 9 initiated. This podcast will self-destruct in 20 seconds. The preceding transmission sampled the songs Ice Cold by Audionautics, Enter the Party by Kevin MacLeod, and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net. Editing by Todd Hostetler.